Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for game week 6, which is going to be a very popular week to use your wildcard chip in. Some people have pressed the button already and some people are kind of on the fence, wondering if they should use a wildcard or not. I'm personally one of those people myself. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to use my wildcard chip or if I'm going to save it for game week 7. Still undecided about that, but as I go along with this video, I might get a clearer picture as I try to make the case for each and every one of the players that I've selected to be in the Wildcard 6 draft, basically, that I'm going to present to you guys. So yeah, that's basically the weekly Wildcard draft series. I do this every single week. I do a Wildcard draft every single week and compare and contrast from the week prior, how the squad has changed and what changes I have done, basically. And yeah, this week is no different, except for the fact that I've actually done the video a bit earlier this time around, posting it on a Monday. I usually post it Wednesdays or Tuesdays, but this week is a pretty important week. A lot of people are looking to wildcard, and a lot of people want those price changes or price rises in their teams. So a quick early video, I think, would make a lot of sense. And someone also requested it in the comment section a couple weeks back as well. So I'm gonna make sure that I oblige to that comment and make the video right now. So yeah, if you haven't seen the series before, I basically do this in the style of an NBA or NFL type of draft, where the number one pick, the first player that I will present to you, is the player that I think is the most important player to have in FPL currently. And then the 15th pick is going to be the player that I'm the least sure about having in my squad as of this moment. So yeah, let's just go straight into it with number 1, which is going to be Haaland once again. Pretty much self-explanatory here. He's been the most lethal player in the whole game so far already. Even though he is the highest price of all time, 15.0, he's completely worth the price. So far, so good, and he has even easier matches now coming up as well. So Haaland is pretty much essential. You sort of need to have him. I haven't seen that many wildcards, or not any at all, basically, especially in game week 6 without Haaland, and that's for a good reason, because he's basically the best captaincy option every single game week. Pretty much a guarantee for a goal each game, and sometimes hat tricks, as we've seen twice already this season. So yeah, Haaland is basically just a no-brainer. I don't really have to sell you on him, so he's the clear number 1 pick for me. Number 2, we have Saka, who was actually not in the draft last week, as you can see from his name, which is marked with green, which means he's a new player. There's quite a few new players this week, because it is quite a pivotal week to wildcard. And I think, for what it's worth, that it is a really good game week to wildcard, especially if you have some issues. If you don't have Haaland, for example, I think it makes sense to wildcard, unless your team is like perfect otherwise, then maybe you can survive one more week, because he is facing Newcastle away after all, which is kind of a tougher game, but yeah, that's sort of besides the point. But this week, I think Saka is pretty damn important. He might be the best captaincy option this week, even ahead of Haaland. Leicester at home is such a great fixture for Arsenal. I think they beat Leicester 5-2 last time Leicester were in the Premier League. You could see something like that happen again, and Saka just keeps getting points, keeps getting assists from corners. He could score some goals as well, could get a penalty potentially as well and score. So he has so many ways he can score goals, and I think Arsenal now, after 2 games where they've sort of been hampered by red cards against Brighton and Arsenal, I think they really want to show what they have going forward. So I think he's going to be very much involved. I think Arsenal will score a lot of goals in this game, and I think he might be the best captaincy choice for game week 6, and that makes him pretty much a no-brainer for the wildcard draft, pretty much, and that's why he's number 2 on this list. Let's move on to number 3, which is another player that is pretty damn important to have, and that is Gabriel, who's kept 3 clean sheets and scored 2 goals so far, and has been the best defender in the game. Not that surprisingly, because he's been awesome in FPL the last few seasons. I've been a huge fan of his, and I don't know why I haven't selected him in my squad from game week 1 or any of the game weeks, basically. Maybe I was a bit too unsure about his playing time. It felt like with Calafiori coming in, Timber coming back, there would be more rotation, but it seems like the Gabriel-Saliba partnership in the central defense is pretty much just steadfast. Arteta's going to keep rocking with that, and it's the fullbacks that are going to change, like we saw last game against Man City, where all of a sudden Timber was on the right and Calafiori was on the left. So those guys can play at fullback positions, and I think Gabriel is pretty damn nailed. He might get rested for a game here or there in between, like Champions League games and stuff, so maybe that will be the case in one of the upcoming game weeks, but he's just too good not to have. He has shown himself to be just absolutely dominating on corners. Saka has been really good at taking the corners as well lately, after Declan Rice was out a bit for a game against Spurs. They had that game as well. I forgot about that game, but yeah, I think Arsenal are ready to attack this game week, and I think Gabriel is also going to be another huge threat from set pieces, and I think they're also going to keep a clean sheet against Leicester, who aren't the best team, even though they do get like the odd goal every single game, it seems like. But But yeah, I think Gabriel is just amazing for the next 3 game weeks, especially after that Arsenal have some tougher-ish fixtures. But even beyond that, we know what Arsenal defense can do. We know how good they can look. With 10 men against Man City, they looked pretty damn good. So yeah, I think Gabriel is just an easy pick in defense as well. He is one of my favorites in FPL, and I'm so upset with myself for not having him earlier in the season, basically. Number 4, we have Mbeumo, another person that is pretty much in every single wildcard draft that I've seen so far, and for good reason. He's the talisman for Brentford, who have been really good going forward, especially. They do keep conceding goals, but that is also a plus for Mbeumo as a bonus point collector. He's also the penalty taker. They also face West Ham at home, and West Ham have been absolutely dreadful lately, especially the game against Chelsea. It looked horrendous defensively, so it's a really nice jumping on point for Mbeumo, and that's one of the main reasons people are wildcarding as well, because he just got finished up with 2 pretty tough games against Man City and Spurs, where Brentford lost both matches. But he did score against Spurs, a really well-taken goal, and he's proven himself to be just a really, really good player. Someone who is well worth the money that he is costing, especially with Tony out this season. And Mbeumo stepped up another level and been fantastic from the start of the season once again. He was basically fantastic throughout the last season as well, except for the part where he was injured. But now that he's fully fit, he's going to be fantastic. You can see 3 of the next 4 are home games against West Ham, Wolves, and Ipswich. Just absolutely beautiful matches. It's a shame that Johan Wissa is out with injury. But it's just a really nice jumping on point for Mbeumo, who's just absolutely fantastic. And that's pretty much it for why he's number 4. Number 5, we have Kai Havertz, and I've gone double Arsenal attack, as you can see, rather than double Arsenal defense. And I've tripled up with Arsenal with Gabriel, Saka, and Havertz. I just feel really good about Havertz in general. I think he's going to play striker. Like I said with Saka, I think Arsenal are going to score a lot of goals against Leicester, and I think Havertz is going to be the man up front. He could easily score a brace in that game. So I think Havertz is just a really nice player to have for the next 2 game weeks, especially. Potentially even the next 3 with Bournemouth away, which is slightly tougher, but still a game where Arsenal are expected to score a lot of goals and be the best team. So yeah, I think Havertz is fantastic. I'm not quite as sold on any of the extra Arsenal defenders. I think Raya has been just absolutely fantastic so far, but I don't really like using 5.5 on a goalkeeper for Arsenal. I don't like using goalkeeper transfers in general. Moving off of someone like Havertz can get you someone exciting in attack, but moving off of Raya cannot get you anyone exciting once Arsenal fixtures get worse when it comes to goalkeepers. Goalkeeper transfers are just boring in general. Yes, Raya could be a season keeper. Arsenal could keep a clean sheet in every single game they play in, but yeah, I think it's just too much to use on a goalkeeper for a team that you probably have some better attacking options. There's going to be weeks where Havertz is looking absolutely fantastic. There's going to be weeks where someone else, for example, Ben White, is really good attackingly as well, and it's going to be a player worth having. So yeah, I don't like using the third spot on a goalkeeper for one of the bigger teams. So yeah, that's just my preference basically, but I could see why people will go with Raya because he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and I'm happy to see him getting his flowers finally after getting a lot of negativity, at least at the start of last season. But Arteta has been proven right with Raya. He's also been proven right with Havertz, who's also been looking really good so far this season, especially when he has been allowed to be the striker and get a lot of potential chances, because yeah, when you feed him, he's likely going to score, because that's what he's shown so far this season. So yeah, I have a lot of faith in Havertz, not quite as much faith in I just don't. I have a lot of faith in Raya, but I just prefer having a striker or attacker from Arsenal, especially with these really good fixtures that usually favors the attacking players. So I want to double up with the Arsenal attack with Saka and Havertz in this instance. So Havertz is there at number 5. I think he is a really good striker option this week. And it seems like he's going to continue playing as a striker, even though Ødegaard has been out, which has been kind of nice to see the last few game weeks, that Havertz is still going to be in that attacking role and most likely be the main man to score goals for Arsenal, apart from Saka potentially. Number 6, we have Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth. They have, again, 2 really good fixtures. They have Southampton and Leicester, just the other way around compared to Arsenal, and Semenyo has been really lively so far, even scored a disallowed goal against Liverpool last game week, even though he blanked. For the second game week in a row, he looked good doing it, I guess. So yeah, Semenyo has been the best player for Bournemouth so far this season, and they have really good fixtures in the next 2. After that, not so much, but that's the point where you can jump off of him and go to someone potentially more expensive, as I'll explain later on in the video. But Semenyo is someone that I've had since game week 1 myself as well, and I've been really happy with him. The first 3 game weeks he got points. And he's been also unlucky in some of those games to not get more points, because he's been, yeah, just one of the best players in the league so far, basically. And especially for Bournemouth, he's been fantastic. So he comes in at number 6 for especially the next 2 fixtures. Number 7, we have Morgan Rogers again, finally getting the points, 10 points in his past game, 3 bonus points, 2 assists. Exactly what we want to see from Morgan Rogers, who's been playing 90 minutes every single game for Aston Villa. He plays for a really good team, has really, well, decent fixtures at least. And he is shown to be a really good player as well, who's been unlucky not to get more points previously in the season. But I think something has been unlocked now for Rogers. I think he's going to go on and score more and more points. And I think just long term, he's just someone that I really, really like. So where I have someone like Semenyo, who's more like a short-term pick, Rogers is someone that I can foresee myself just having the whole season, because he just plays all the time for Aston Villa and is super attacking for them. They're a really good team. And yeah, he's just a really, really good asset for that price that he is. So Rogers stays in the team at number 7. Number 8, we have Gvardiol, who I am pretty happy to have. I have him in my team, have had him since Game Week 1, and he's been disappointing so far, but it's mostly just due to his role, and we still don't know yet if he's going to continue playing more attackingly like he has done the last few games. Had 2 really big chances against Arsenal that he could have scored, but he didn't, or 2 decent chances at least in the second half. So whenever Rico Lewis hasn't played, Gvardiol has been playing really high up in the pitch like he did towards the end of last season, and that's why I had him from Game Week 1. And that's why I can foresee him doing now as well, as it seems like Rico Lewis has been sort of dropped from the first team at least. But with the injury to Rodri, maybe that will change. Maybe Lewis will play more now, as he did at the start of the season when Rodri was out. So maybe Lewis will be the better Man City pick in defense. But I think Gvardiol, even if Lewis plays, Gvardiol can also play 60 plus minutes. And if City for some reason manage to get clean sheets now, because they haven't been able to so far, it seems like this season, Gvardiol is still going to be a really good pick. He could be a fantastic pick if he plays super attackingly, or he could be a pretty good pick if he just plays as a defender, as he has been doing so far this season. So yeah, with the fixtures that City have, I think a double up especially is warranted for City. Potentially triple up as well, but there's one guy that I'm going to discuss at the end of the video that I'm still a bit curious about, that I'm waiting to see more from before I get him into my team, basically. But yeah, I'm going to discuss that towards the end of the video. But Gvardiol, really good defender. We know baseline-wise he's going to be a decent defender. Highest potential level for him is sky high, potentially the best defender in the game if he continues like he did towards the end of last season. So yeah, he comes in at number 8. But there are some question marks about his role. I think the playing time is safe, but I think his attacking or defensive role is going to matter when it comes to if it's worth buying or not, because he is quite expensive at 6.0, but not that expensive if he gets to play at his full potential, basically. Number 9, we have Dominic Solanke, who is going to be our final forward in this team. I just wanted to bring him in because I think from game week 8 onwards, you can see West Ham at home there. That's a really nice fixture. From that point on, I just want Solanke, and I know with the wildcard, there's going to be a long wait until we get another wildcard later on in the season. So you kind of need to look a bit more long-term when you're wildcarding in general. And I think Solanke is just a really good pick long-term as the main striker for Spurs. Spurs are creating a lot of chances. They're super attacking. I think they have unlocked a better level now against Brentford especially. They got some confidence now in the group, it seems like. Brendan Johnson is looking a lot better after having a tough start to the season and getting a lot of abuse basically from his own fans. So it's nice to see from his point of view that he's been good. But he's also been feeding Solanke, who's been looking really good as a striker for Spurs. And I think he's just a really good, solid long-term pick. Whereas Havertz might be more short-term for the good fixtures now, and you can downgrade him and use the money elsewhere potentially later on. I think Solanke is just someone that you can keep for a long time, especially once Spurs' fixtures get better. Man United away is going to be a really interesting game, I think. I think Spurs and Man United are 2 teams that are kind of hard to pinpoint how good they are compared to each other, basically. So that's going to be a really nice test for Spurs and see if Solanke is worth it or not. But yeah, I think Solanke is really, really good as the main striker for Spurs. He plays basically 90 minutes every game, played 87 minutes last time around, played 90 minutes the game before that, and played 90 minutes in his first game of the season. So it seems like not that much of a minutes risk at all, and that's going to be really nice at this point of the season, where there's going to be more European games for a lot of these teams, including Spurs. But yeah, Solanke should be good for the league games, especially as well. So yeah, Solanke comes in at number 9 as my final forward in the team. Then we have the goalkeeper, which is going to be Mats Sels from Nottingham Forest. I did consider having a Nottingham Forest defender, but I figured he would just be on the bench because I have quite a strong defense in this team. But I'd still want to have one of those Forest players to get those clean sheets, and then why not go for the goalkeeper? I think Nottingham Forest have proven to be a really good defensive team so far this season. Sels has proven to be a pretty good goalkeeper, I think. And with the fixtures that they have, I just think he's the best 4.5 option to have currently. And I've gone with a 4.5, 4.0 sort of double up here. I think there's more money to be spent elsewhere than goalkeeper, and I think Sels is a pretty good standout goalkeeper so far this season as well. So yeah, I quite like that for the goalkeeper spot. I don't really have to talk too much about it. I think he's the best 4.5 goalkeeper. I think Sanchez has been a bit lucky so far getting all of his points at the penalty save, where he could have been sent off right before if he was really unlucky. Onana's gotten a lot of points. He's a bit more expensive. I did consider him as well, but yeah, just using 5.0 on a goalkeeper also doesn't feel quite satisfying either. Then we have Flecken, who hasn't kept a clean sheet so far this season, so Brentford haven't really looked the best defensively. Henderson has obviously been really bad, even though he was good last game. Verbruggen is going to get into a lot of tough matches now, so I just think Sels is the best 4.5 goalkeeper, and that's why I've chosen him as the number 10 pick in this draft, basically. Number 11, we have Mykolenko from Everton, and I think Everton, now that Branthwaite is coming back into fitness, are going to look a lot better defensively. We saw that last season. Branthwaite came in and basically took the place of Michael Keane in the defense for Everton, and it just completely changed their fortunes defensively. I think that could happen again with Branthwaite, especially looking at the fixtures for Everton. Really, really nice fixtures there, especially with the Ipswich fixture in Game Week 8. Even in all the other fixtures, they can keep a clean sheet, but it is Everton. They have been struggling so far defensively, but I think they are going to sort it out at some point. And I think Mykolenko, for the price that he is now, 4.3, is just an absolute bargain if he plays every single game for Everton, who had really good defensive numbers last season, and I think they can get back to that once they get their best defensive player by far in Branthwaite back. So yeah, I think Mykolenko is a really nice option. He has shown himself to be someone that could score goals and get assists as well previously. Had that spurt last season where he was really, really good. So that could happen again. You could also get clean sheets, and I think it's just a really nice cheap option to have. So I've selected him as the number 11 pick for that reason. Number 12, we have Alexander-Arnold. I did say we have a really strong defense, and Mykolenko is basically going to be on the bench mostly, but he is a nice guy to just have as insurance, I guess, in case something happens with Gvardiol, Gabriel, or Trent. Trent is also more of a short-term pick. That's why he's gone down quite a bit since last draft. I had him as number 3 in the Game Week 5 drafts, my third most important player to have. And he did get 11 points, so that's partly the reason. I thought his fixture last game week against Bournemouth at home was a really nice fixture for him. And he finally delivered when it comes to assists and having a clean sheet on top of that as well. So I think Trent is fantastic. Might want to keep him the entirety of the season as well. I just still want to see more from Liverpool and Trent if he keeps doing as well as he has done so far this season, showing the signs of, or not signs of improvement really, but just like showing how good Liverpool have become defensively this season, and also how vital it's been offensively for Liverpool. I want to see that for a couple more game weeks before I make a decision on him. But for Game Week 6 and Game Week 7, 2 games against Wolves and Crystal Palace, I think those two are really good games where Liverpool should be the best team on the pitch and basically have a lot of chances to score. And I think Trent could be really, really nice for those 2 game weeks. So I want to keep him, but I have him as number 12 because he is quite expensive, 7.0. If I downgrade him to someone like Pedro Porro, for example, I have so many options with this team. So I might do that in Game Week 8. That is one of the projected moves potentially in Game Week 8, where Spurs fixtures get better and Liverpool's fixtures get worse. So that is a potential out on Trent, but he might also be someone that I keep because he might just prove himself to be essential in these next 2 game weeks. So yeah, I think for these next 2 game weeks, he's going to be really nice to have. And then after that, you can judge again and maybe downgrade him and get some more money for another position, potentially Semenyo, upgrading Semenyo to someone else by selling Trent and getting money that way. Could be an option potentially in Game Week 8. So yeah, I think Trent is really good for the short term and potentially also the long term, but I'm still not quite sure if I want to keep him just because of the price. But I think his ceiling is just too high to not have him in the squad, so he comes in at number 12. Number 13, we have Tyler Dibling from Southampton. Scored his first goal last game. Looked really, really good. Has some nice fixtures, as you can see. The Leicester fixture there in Bournemouth. But mostly he's going to be on the bench. He's going to be like a 4.5 break in case of emergency type of player. But the Leicester game in Game Week 8 is really, really nice because there are some tougher fixtures there for some of the players. Especially if you keep the likes of Semenyo, for example. You have Dibling who can come in and bench Semenyo for that game as your 7th attacker, basically. So Dibling has looked good so far. When he has gotten to play for Southampton, and yeah, he's just a really cheap player to have. So really like him, and I think he gives you a lot of more wealth in terms of the rest of your team that you can spend on better players. For example, Trent. By having Dibling, you can have the likes of Trent and Havertz and Solanke on top of having Haaland and Saka and those guys. So yeah, I think Dibling is just a really nice enabler for that price. and someone that you can just have on your bench and just, like I said, break in case of emergency and use him in those few game weeks where you need him to, basically. So he comes in number 13. He's not like a super important player to have, but he's just a cheap, nice player to have on your bench. That's basically the same thing for the 14th and 15th pick as well. Let's go 14 first, which is going to be Jacob Greaves once again. Hasn't really proven much in terms of points so far, but I think the fixtures are still pretty good for Ipswich. And he is the best 4.0 defender in my opinion, or 4.1 defender even if you include Woodfash, or 4.2 defender if you include Kwanzaa, who doesn't play. So I think Greaves is just the best cheap defender, so that's why he's in the squad basically. You just want someone who's cheap enough and he's guaranteed to play as well for the cheapest possible price. So that's why he's in the squad, but at the same time he's sort of dispensable as well, because yeah, he's not going to play much. He's just going to be there for like as a cheap option. So that's why he's number 14 basically, but I quite like him. I quite like the fixtures, and yeah, he's the best 4.0 option in my opinion. Then in goal, there's really no good 4.0 options. I went with Joao Virginia again because there has been some rumors that Pickford might be dropped. I think that's more in conjunction with Nick Pope coming in January potentially, just a rumor. So yeah, I don't think Joao Virginia will play much, but yeah, just had to pick a 4.0 goalkeeper. So that's basically why he's 15th. You just have to pick a goalkeeper as a backup for 4.0, and he's my best guess, I guess, for who's the best backup goalkeeper to have. So yeah, he comes in number 15, but he's one of a lot of new names you can see in the squad. All the players marked with green: Sels, Virginia, Gvardiol, Mykolenko, Dibling, Saka, Havertz, and Solanke. That's 8 players by my count that are new. So that means 8 players have dropped out since the last weekly wildcard draft as well. So I'm going to talk about those, and I'm also going to talk about 3 players that I was really considering picking in the team, but for some reason did leave out. So let's first go into the players that I missed out since last time. Salah is the main man. He was picked number 2 last week, mainly because I thought he was the best captain's option in Game Week 5 by quite a distance. I think that's why he was so important to have in Game Week 5. And he was also just easy to downgrade to Saka for this game week as well if you had him, or potentially just keep him because he's really good playing against Wolves away. That's one of the things that I have to consider. Do I want to keep Salah or do I want to get Saka as my captain potentially for this week? That's going to decide whether I do the wildcard in Game Week 6 or in Game Week 7 mostly for me. So I think Salah is still an amazing player to have, but if I was wildcarding now, I would sell him and spread the money around basically. So that's basically the main issue when it comes to whether I should wildcard or not. Should I keep Salah or should I not keep Salah for another game week? That is the question pretty much, as Shakespeare himself said, I guess. But yeah, Salah is still amazing obviously, but yeah, just for the money and the fixtures that they are getting eventually, Liverpool, it just seems like the right time to jump off of him if you're wildcarding, especially now that he's not the best captain's option potentially this week, even though he might still be. But yeah, you have some other good options in Saka and Haaland this week, which you didn't really do last week when they faced each other, when Arsenal and City played each other basically. Number 6, Calvert-Lewin. I think he didn't score last game, and he still has good fixtures. He's still someone I would consider, but there are some other cheaper-ish strikers or cheapest strikers that I would go with instead of him most likely. And I've also just upgraded since I sold Salah. I have money enough in the bank to have the likes of Havertz and Solanke, who I really, really like as strikers now. So Calvert-Lewin just had to drop out for that reason. SA is another one of those players that I'm considering, like when it comes to wildcarding in Game Week 6 or Game Week 7. Plays Everton this week, which is a really nice fixture, but after that, Crystal Palace are really bad fixtures, and SA has been a disappointment when it comes to FPL points so far this season. Getting a lot of good underlying numbers, having big chances every single game it seems like, but he just fluffs his chances for some reason. He's been good the last few, or especially last season, he was really good when it comes to scoring goals and stuff, but this season just it hasn't worked out for him pretty much. But yeah, another player that is good to keep for this game week, but for the long-term future, he's someone you want to sell, and that's why he didn't get a place in the wildcard team. But he could have done, I guess, he could downgrade one of the strikers and upgrade Dibling to SA, for example. That is an option. But I think SA, just long-term wise, it's just not the pick currently to have. Joe Pedro as well, he's also really good, like long-term pick, sort of like Rodgers, cheap price, plays pretty much 90 minutes whenever he's fit to play, and he takes penalties, but it's just that number 2 thing there that I said, fit to play. He hasn't really been fit the last few weeks. He was sort of hobbled last time around after that tackle from Morgan Gibbs-White, which caused him to get a red card, Gibbs-White. So yeah, it's just the fitness when it comes to Joe Pedro that makes me sell or get rid of him from last week. Pretty much, I think he's a really good player, especially long-term, but I think Havertz and Solanke for the next few weeks, especially in Havertz's case, and long-term wise for Solanke, I think he's just a better pick than Joe Pedro currently. So Joe Pedro drops off for that reason. Alex Moreno was subbed off at the half last time, so yeah, that's it for him basically. I think Ola Aina is the one to go for if you want to have 4.5 Nottingham Forest defender, or Murillo, who's even more nailed, I guess, than Ola Aina. But Ola Aina seems to be the preferred fullback for Forest, and Murillo or Mykolenko, for that matter, are really good centre backs to have in that really good Nottingham Forest defense. But Moreno, pretty much a no-go after being subbed off at the half. That's not a good sign, so he drops out. Verbruggen has dropped out because the fixtures for Brighton are just like not that good anymore, and I had the Verbruggen Flecken matchup previously, but I just want to have more money elsewhere now, so I've downgraded one of the goalkeepers to 4.0, and then I've upgraded, I guess, to the best 4.5 standalone goalkeeper. But Flecken and Verbruggen is still a pretty good rotation pair, but it's just for the next like 4 game weeks. It's just going to be pretty much Flecken every single game week, and that made me want to drop Verbruggen. And once I was stuck with just Flecken and I compared Flecken to Sels, it just made more sense to have Sels because he has better fixtures, or the same kind of fixtures, and it just plays for a much better defense as well. So yeah, Sels comes in rather than Flecken / Verbruggen, I guess. And then we have Robinson as well. Fulham have tougher fixtures now. They haven't kept a clean sheet so far this season, so Robinson drops out. I still think Robertson is a decent pick, but he's also someone that is getting, like I said, tougher fixtures, and Fulham have conceded in pretty much every game so far. So yeah, Robinson drops out for that reason. That's basically all the players that have been dropped since last time. And then there were some players that were really close to making the squad. I already talked about Pedro Porro as someone that you could potentially have rather than Trent Alexander-Arnold. He was like my favorite player to replace Trent, to get more money in the bank, to potentially upgrade someone else in the team. I think Porro is really good for especially game week 8 onwards, but the next 2 game weeks I still think Spurs will concede. Brighton are really good on the counter especially, which is really good against Spurs. And Man United are also pretty decent when it comes to counter-attack goals and some of the players that they have. So I think the next 2 game weeks are not the best for Spurs defenders. And I think Porro has been sort of tied, like the hype around Pedro Porro has died down a little bit. He hasn't been quite as attacking, it seems like, the last few game weeks. So yeah, I just want more time to judge both Trent and Pedro Porro, but could easily be the case that Pedro Porro is the better pick in terms of his value. But I think for the next 2 game weeks, with the good fixtures for Trent and not so good fixtures for Pedro Porro, I just want to stick with Trent despite the price difference there. So Porro drops out for that reason, or hasn't dropped out, but he's not in the squad for that reason. I was really close to having him. Nicholas Jackson is the one that I really like as well. He's looked so super fantastic so far this season, really proving himself as like a main striker for a Big Six team. A lot of people had doubts about him going into the season, but he's proving a lot of doubters wrong this season, and for good reason, because he is a fantastic player, I think, in general. It's just Chelsea attackers, I just can't trust them. He gets subbed off around 60 minutes just about every game, it seems like, and Nkunku is a really nice option, backup option for him as well. So just too many Chelsea attackers for me to trust any one of them. And with Chelsea's fixtures also sort of dwindling down and getting worse and worse now, I just went away from Jackson. But I think the next 2 game weeks against Brighton and Nottingham Forest, he could do really, really well, like he did against West Ham. But it's just, yeah, the fixtures, the amount of attackers Chelsea have, and the rotation that they have in general just makes me go without Nicholas Jackson. But he was really close to making it, especially over Solanke for the next 2 game weeks. I think Jackson will outscore Solanke for the next 2 game weeks, but for the long haul, I think Solanke will be a better player overall. So that's why I went with Solanke over Jackson. Then we have Luis Diaz, who's sort of the talk of the town, I guess, lately, because he's been absolutely fantastic. He's outscored Salah. So it's kind of crazy, seeing as I had Salah as my number 2 pick last week, that I don't have Luis Diaz, who's so much cheaper and has outscored Salah so far. But there are still question marks about Diaz's playing time, even though he's playing so well now that you can't really bench him at this point. But, you know, long term, if he has a couple blanks in a row, which he has had in the past, he could potentially be dropped. Cody Gakpo is looking really good as well so far this season, and we know Arne Slot kind of likes him as well. So yeah, I'm not quite sure about Diaz's playing time long term. I think for the next 2 game weeks he's really good, but I just prefer Trent as someone that I can downgrade potentially the next few weeks. But Diaz was really close to making it, especially seeing as game week 8 would be a nice jumping off point from him as well to someone like Phil Foden, who's the player that I alluded to earlier in this video. He's someone that I'm really interested to bring in for game week 7 or game week 8 potentially. That's also another reason why I might delay the wildcard until game week 7. If I get to see Foden play 60 plus minutes against Newcastle, I would be a lot more interested in Foden. I think he's going to be really good. He played centrally at least when he came on against Arsenal. That's a really good sign. Of course, De Bruyne is out, so that might help Foden in that regard, playing centrally. But if he plays centrally for Man City, we know how good it can be, like it was last season. So I think Foden is a really good pick who I'm really trying to get somehow for game week 8, potentially. I would have to downgrade Trent Alexander-Arnold, potentially downgrade Havertz as well, and then upgrade Semenyo to Foden. There's also James Maddison, who I've also considered as well. He's also sort of on the cusp. He's looked really good. He's actually second place for expected goal moment, as revealed, I guess, by FPL Raptor, or highlighted, I guess, by FPL Raptor earlier today on Twitter. So yeah, Maddison is another player that I might bring in for game week 8 as well, considering Spurs' really good fixtures. So he's another good option to bring in for Semenyo when he needs replacing after 2 game weeks pretty much. So those are the players that are in consideration. Still not quite sure if I should wildcard or not. I'm probably leaning more towards waiting another week. I still think my team is looking pretty good for this upcoming game week. Could save a transfer and have more clarity when it comes to the likes of Foden. Potentially easier to jump off of Trent next week as well. I get Salah against Wolves away, which might be a good captaincy option. I think, again, it's just going to come down to who I think is the better captain, Salah against Wolves or Saka against Leicester. And currently I'm leaning sort of more towards Saka against Leicester. So yeah, it's really tough. I have to decide today, I think, when it comes to price changes. I want to be quite early when I do the wildcard. So yeah, I just got to decide, and I'm not quite sure yet myself either. I'll talk more about it later on in the week when I do my team selection and stuff, what I landed on doing pretty much. But yeah, I think this is a pretty strong squad to have on the wildcard. There are some issues though. I don't know. I think that my Game Week 6, there are a lot of good looking Game Week 6 teams going around. So yeah, it just remains. It depends on whether you want to get those price changes, especially because I think a lot of people are doing transfers this week. That will affect prices. So yeah, quite indecisive when it comes to the wildcard, as you can see. But yeah, it's just purely team dependent. It depends. If you look at your team and it looks just not good enough for this next upcoming game week, then yeah, do the wildcard change. For me, I have not that many players that I have presented you right now on my own team. I basically have Trent Alexander-Arnold, I have Gvardiol, I have Semenyo, I have Rodgers, and I have Haaland, and I have Solanke. So that's the 6 players that I do have. So there's actually 9 players that I don't have in the squad. Some of them are like Dibling, Virginia, Mykolenko. They don't really matter for this next game week. So yeah, hard to judge whether to use a wildcard or not. Same for me, struggling with that myself. But maybe I made a good enough case for all these players today, and you feel confident enough to do the wildcard chip this week. And like I said, I might do it myself. I have to think about it this tonight before I make a decision, and I'm probably gonna reveal that on Twitter. So if you follow me at the FPL Scope on Twitter, or X as it's called, I guess now, you'll probably see whether I'll use the wildcard chip or not by the end of today. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you've had a good season so far. My season has been okay, 1.3 million. Not the best so far. Could have done better. I'm kind of annoyed with all my transfers so far. I did Solanke in for Isak last week, which kind of worked out. Solanke got more points, and I like him obviously for the foreseeable future. So yeah, not too bad. Feeling decent about my season, but obviously quite a long way up to my last season rank of 8,812, which I was really happy with. And once again, the goal is to get into the top 10k, as it always is in FPL for me. But that's pretty much it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have a fun time pondering whether you should wildcard or not, just like I am. And I'll see you again next time. So bye-bye.